think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
So, yeah, I don't know. We have an unconstitutional act being passed in Alberta currently. Little update on Canadian politics.
Oh,
You want to get into it?
I guess I don't really understand. I mean, like, is this any different than the Quebec referendum?
It's very similar. It's a little different. Stakes are lower, but also still high.
Yeah, because the referendum would have separated from Canada. This is like, we're just going to ignore Canada.
Yeah, but in a way that's just going to set up a Supreme Court battle at some point. And, like, it's not even going to, it's just going to get kicked over to the Supreme Court in general. Like, it's just a fucking, we're going to be disruptive for the sake of being disruptive kind of legislation.
Is it just this all has to do, like, if you put this down back into like run of the mill hillbilly basics, this has to do with the fact that those profitable 2001 oil jobs where everybody thought that just living in Alberta meant that you made $50 an hour went away.
Yeah.
And that's what this is, isn't it? And
I think
it's
that's
just
not
like
far from the truth.
they've never recovered from that. They never recovered from the fantasy that type of work and that labor is just it was a quick flash in the pan. And they just imagine this fantasy world where if they build a fucking oil pipeline to the promised land of the United States of America, that all will be well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of like,
sounds pretty accurate.
Well, it's kind of like it's a Saudi Arabia story. Like, what if Saudi Arabia could not use its main export, right? Or even Iran or any other major oil producing nation.
I think the big thing is nobody wants to pay us for it. No one wants to pay for high labor. No one wants us digging it up because the cost is not going to be like a Saudi cost.
Yeah, it's shitty oil. You know, like,
and
everybody
it's gonna be like, and you're gonna pay premium fucking North American wages to refine it and get this going. Like, that doesn't work. That's why we don't have any fucking manufacturing here. We can't even manufacture our own Tylenol.
I think it was working. I mean, we can't deny that it was working, but then oil, you know, like, fuck, what do I know? But it seemed to me that, like, the oil markets plummeted. And
well, I'm pretty sure that
the sweet crude. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure some of that's by design. Like, Trump and Smokin' Joe, they don't want that fucking pipeline. They don't want it. They could have. They had it ready to rock.
Yeah.
They don't want it. This fucks shit up. Like, it fucks up the whatever. Like, it messes with their economy and it benefits us. That's no good.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. It might be as simple as that. Maybe environmentalism has absolutely nothing to do with it. But I think also it's a political hot potato, like the Keystone Pipeline and all that stuff. It's a byword for eco damage, and so it's easy to sell on. It's always been easy to sell on the left, but it might even be easier for that reason to sell on the potentially growingly eco-conscious right.
It becomes a wedge too. I think, like, she's was it Smith, Danielle Smith?
Yeah, it's funny. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's her name. But
yeah,
like,
I stopped paying attention
kind of
after Jason Kenney stepped up.
And then apparently, like, Alberta is actually tilting NDP. Like, there's a possibility that the NDP could win a provincial election. So I think this is sort of like just a political stunt to rally around this idea of sovereignty and try to stick it to Trudeau. But like you say, it's just eventually it's going to be a challenge. You can't have a system of law where you're just saying, like, okay, like, we're part of Canada, but Canadian law doesn't apply to us when we don't want it to, because, like, then every province makes that decision. Like, how do you have a country if that's the case?
Well, it's the same as it is now. Doug does that all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's
throwing the notwithstanding clause, but that's that's different.
at least it's constitutional, right? It's.
Yeah.
But I think it's a piece, like it's of the moment of like this current political moment where there's just this desire for centralized authoritarian governance, like at the state or provincial level, against federal larger federal structures. That's definitely in the air, and
then throw it to a referendum and be your own country. If you really think a landlocked province can survive without the support of Canada, then go for it. Go at it.
Well, but it's within a unified Canada, man. It's okay. Like it's a bullshit bill. I mean, we know it. Bill number 1, it's bill number 0, no good, and everybody knows it. And you're right, Chris. I think. I mean, it does immediately smell of political tactic, just like a symbol, just like throwing up a swastika and seeing who salutes, right? I mean, that's not fair as an analogy.
Is this a Kanye joke?
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad. My bad.
Yeah.
Yee?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
am I pronouncing that right?
By Yee now, right.
Or is it Yee? Is that a joke?
That poor fucking guy. I don't feel particularly sorry for him, but like,
no,
he's obviously having a mental fucking breakdown.
He has the same condition that Britney Spears and Michael Jackson have. It's like you got rich too fast, and you live in a fucking fantasy world, and you've turned into a fucking mental defective.
Yeah. With the paradox.
Literally.
Oh wow.
Okay.
There we go. Just we're a bunch of dads here, folks. We're a bunch of dads.
I don't think anyone's defending him out there. I mean, if you're out there defending him, enjoy it.
No, I there's nothing to defend. It's just like it is, yes, it's a guy having a mental breakdown. I mean, I think, exactly in the way that you stated, James. But
you're supposed to do it the way Shia did it, though. Like, do it in a classy way. Just go barefoot and fucking lose it. Like, you don't get weirdly political. Like,
it is the natural. Go on.
I just feel like he's burning it down. He's not holding on to anything now.
He's burning it down. Yeah, he made comments to the effect that, like, the more he loses, the more God is purifying him to be his perfect vessel, like to that. Yeah. So it's fucking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like if that's his heuristic, if that's that, like how shit's working, that's the program he's running. Like it's just gonna keep going, like until
those are schizophrenia markers.
And no, exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. Like listening to him talk, it doesn't make any sense. And where you see the letters that our good friend Adam receives, the sort of things that a government agency might receive from a fucking schizophrenic individual, it sounds exactly like.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
I've seen a man ask for help with his cell phone back in the early Android days. Take it out of his backpack. Take it out of a plastic bag and unwrap it from tinfoil, unwrap the battery from a separate tinfoil, and put it all together and turn it on like momentarily in like an anxious fucking sweat.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And then
tried to sell me a Faraday cage, like just kind of like that same idea, like just like a pouch you just or just putting your phone in so that it can't track you.
Yeah, fucking right, man.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
That's
making your device useless.
And every time, and then just absolutely like massacring the battery life while this poor little bastard struggles to fucking try to connect to cell phone towers after you do that to it. And then one of my things too now is like I wonder what these people go through every time they change something, like even as simple as like a key fob. Like now, like key fobs are like programmed for security on a vehicle, so I can unlock my car, get in, throw the key fob in the fucking cup holder, and push button start. Like that just must fuck with them. They must just be like, everything's fucking microchipped, radio waves
Yeah, man.
It's hard to take.
Yeah, there's robots. You've got one in your house. It listens to you all the time, purposefully. There's. We live in a society that not caters, but just like the schizophrenic society. I think someone might have written about that once. Schizophrenia and capitalism.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah. But I mean, like, at least, like, I know what my machine's doing. It's just logical. You just have to, well, all you have to do is look to capitalism. It's making an algorithm of the shit I like so that it can sell me more shit. It's not really exciting.
Although getting back to the original topic, like that's not. I don't think that's what's driving Yi or whatever. He's just gone down the anti-Semitic point of no return. On the old conspiracy pyramid.
He's on the chart. We need a chart for the agenda, maybe like a PDF that we can share with friends and fans.
What does it do?
It's like maybe like I was thinking like maybe a scale, like as simple as like a 1 to 10, but like where you reach, where you start talking about, the Illuminati and then, Holocaust denying and then, something like that. It could go to 100 if you want. I don't know how many things we can put in there. Then you're into the moon, Nazis, lizard people. Then you're on Pedophile Island. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure we could come up with something.
Sorry, Pedophile Island probably comes before all that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's of all of them. That's kind of the easiest one to do. Imagine that there's a billionaire who, like, when I go into like what conspiracies could actually possibly exist, like Pedophile Island, rich people and having young girls. That makes sense. You can do that.
Yeah, we talked about that as like the rock star runner. As simple as like go and cart a bunch of 18-year-olds and bring them backstage. Good job, Billy the bodyguard.
What were you going to say, Chris?
I was going to say no. That's something we can all agree on, that they're definitely pedophile islands run by billionaires.
Yeah, there we go. So.
No. Okay. wait, we're agreeing to that now. Okay.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, didn't they?
No. We agree that they exist. We agree that they exist.
They had a court case. They people came and enjoyed the services and stuff, like celebrities and so on, right? It's documented. Just it's been snuff ordered, right?
Question for you guys: where do Thugee cults rank on the scale? Do they exist?
Oh yeah, like still exist. I think I hear there's tales told of the Thugee, but those tales are now all gone.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure. I don't
know what to believe anymore.
Yeah. So Indiana Jones.
Great segue. Sorry.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. What is this? 1984. And
that's right. It is 84.
Spielbergo classic. Working together with his pal George. This is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. You made me watch this fucking movie, guys. Thanks.
You never saw this? This was your first viewing?
My first like real viewing. Like I saw this like in the house, but I always
you catch it on the the holiday season.
I paid it no mind. I never liked this movie. I was never interested in this movie.
That's silly.
Yeah, and I'm having.
How you like it now?
Yeah. Having watched it, so I'm watching it for the second time, like right now. And it is. I admire this movie's commitment to slapstick. I think it definitely. It's way up there. Pauline Kael called it like the best physical comedy she'd read or seen in a long time, and having read that, I was like, okay, I'll take that perspective, and I see it like, this is I mean, obviously there's a lot of violence and weird shit, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a smash and grab. It's like this is like, for me, this is pure entertainment. It's only entertainment. It's not like you can't. This is very hard to be critical. If you're gonna be critical of this, that's tough. Like
Go on.
Yeah.
Is it tough in the way that it completely like makes you like because fine, let's just get into it. Like this is peak Orientalism. It offended it offended the Indian government so much that they refused to allow it to be filmed there. So, but putting that aside, I hear you. Like on the one hand, this is obviously this is meant to be an Orientalist fantasy, right? Like we can't hold it in the same way that we can't hold or you shouldn't hold certain things against, like, say, Frank Miller. You really can't, like you can't hold it against this show, like because if you do, then you just have to discard it immediately.
I pretty much base like all my foreign knowledge on this film. Okay, but anyway, yeah, it's offensive on a lot of fronts. In even the Chinese like startup, the old
Shanghai,
the gala, yeah, they have the big oh man, the grandeur though, guys, like nobody feels that, like the musical
sure.
number number to open the film.
It starts with a fucking gong and then like a white lady coming out of the head of a dragon, and you're like, holy shit, this is where we're starting from. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then just like the showdown, right to open the movie is like gotta be one of my favorites.
It does hit the ground running, and it is a fun action.
Service here is great, and then he just caps his friend. I've been on so many missions with you Indians.
Chinese life is real cheap in this movie.
It's fucking rough, yeah. But he's goes for the Tommy gun. And what year is this? I have a hard time with that too.
Oh, you mean like what year is it supposed to be? Like in the
35. 35.
Yeah.
1935?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. That's 35 then. So yeah, it's mid 30s. Which is another reason, like, this movie feels like a movie from the 1950s. Telling a story about about 1930, like it has I think it's because it is filmed like I found this out afterwards, like it was largely filmed in a soundstage, one of the quotes was like 80% filmed in a soundstage, and like it feels because like it like a yeah,
like they were set to film there, and then the government just said like, okay, like here's all these reasons why this movie is super offensive and like doesn't account for our culture at all. And they said, well, we don't care. We don't give a fuck. We're just going to do what we're going to do. And they're like, okay, well, you can't film here. So they had to,
do something. I love, on the one hand, I love the balls of that. On the other hand, like, that's fucking crass. Like, an entire fucking country just tells you, like, like they're trying to basically tell you, like, stop right now. And those guys are like, like, this story has to be told. This has to be told.
We got exactly. We got at least 30 Indian guys that are down.
Normally, I say like, if
better.
you don't like it, just don't watch. But in this case, I do feel like there's a lot behind it, and it just says something. If you're completely disregarding the whole feast. I'm sure we'll get into it, but like, those aren't dishes that they serve. It's a largely vegetarian country.
Well, wait,
it's sure the gods, like, so I think they started with the idea of like, there's this Thugee cult, they worship Kali. That's a really cool idea for like something that any could encounter, but entirely from like probably the British imperial experience, and just kind of like being like, well, Christians say that these gods are evil, so they must be evil.
But this is really like, I don't know, like, was there ever any concern that this was taken as like face value, like something that is in India for real, because I just took it as like a pure fantasy. It's just a fantasy movie.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's meant to be, again, getting back to the Frank Miller comparison, like Spielberg's, like the criticism, like for someone could say like, oh, that's a bug, like that's a bug in the program, but for him, he's like, no, this is a feature. I'm doing a pulp serial, like in those 1930s novels where it was racist as fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do it, and I don't care if no one likes it. I want to recreate that experience, and like, fine, like
nailed it.
Mission accomplished. Yeah, fucking nailed it.
It's rooted in the source material. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And they're just and I don't know. Like you're right. They nail it. Like it's a fun movie. It's got great action, but man, yeah, they're just like, it's funny. The scriptwriter, I found this out for Raiders of the Lost, originally tapped to work on this, but he just rejected it. He said, this is ugly and mean-spirited, and I don't want anything to do with it. So they had to kind of move on from him.
Yeah, and they picked up the people who would soon create Howard the Duck, write and direct Howard the Duck. Like the worst. Sorry, I don't know if you've seen that. I watched that movie far more than I ought to have. Maybe it speaks to like the quality of my choices. That I watched Howard the Duck a lot more than and never watched Temple of Doom. But anyway, yeah, everything about this is there's still a lot to like. Okay, so fine, it's fucking peak Orientalism. We'll put that aside. I'm sure we'll laugh about it some more going forward. But I fucking hate Kate Capshaw / Spielberg's wife. And that kind of takes a little bit of, this is a hard movie to like if you don't like what she's doing in this movie, which is screaming and fucking acting like a selfish bitch all the time.
Kate complained about her.
Right. About
screaming,
Willie Scott.
like basically because she tuned in during this as well, just that it was the most like standout thing about the entire film. And then that hurts it because like Harrison Ford's not just being Indiana Jones and his normal obnoxious self, which is great. He is also like committed to this like you described, like a slapstick acting, like the voodoo doll. Oh, and then he was possessed, and he was all over the board, and he carried a performance that was nothing short of magical. I won't be pushed otherwise. It was actually something to fucking behold, like from top to bottom. But yeah, she did draw from the movie with that performance. But I'll also just I'll submit the idea that she was kind of like the antagonist, because the bad guy was like, he was bizarre, but I never really felt like anybody was in any danger. And I don't know why that is.
Well, she's definitely disliked. Like, the movie does not like her. She's not a likable character.
No, she's a villain. She's the villain.
I don't know, but she's not the villain. She just sucks. Like,
she's problematic. This would not. Basically, I think what was presented to me is that Indiana Jones would have dealt with this scenario and left easily. But then she like made it really hard for him.
No, she saves him from the stupid short round. Always making the mistakes in their little adventures. I guess that's the only thing.
That was like that's not fair. That was
sorry, man. It happened. I don't know. She's just fucking useless. And like I think I hear what you're saying. Like I think one's tempted, although it's weird because she would marry Spielberg. But one of the comments is like it's a dark movie because everybody was coming off divorces and so what do they choose to do? They're like, we're gonna have this fucking gold digger bitch, and she's
exactly,
and she's just gonna scream all the time. She's gonna be fucking useless. And just like
that makes so much sense. This the energy of this is like, God, I'm so horny. Like that's exactly what I'm constantly getting from their flirtation, and it's charmless, it's gross, it demeans Indy, but I mean,
No,
she's
it's
also like
fine.
her role is like she's basically like the Karen of it. Like, she's there to complain
Yeah.
about things. She's there to make him look good and like give him some like, I guess to show that Indy has some awareness of the culture and to allow him to, to have those moments where he's like, these people are starving, like eat your food.
Yeah.
I don't care if you don't like it.
It's true, but there is an air of like, yeah, I know what you guys are saying. There's an air that like she's just like, this is just like what a woman is.
Yeah.
And this is like, but you take everything from that like almost like a Rodney Dangerfield divorcee perspective sort of like gag reel and make that a reality. Like just crank the volume to fucking 15. And when they did that with the Chinese culture and the Indian
just
culture, and they did that with the bad guys, and they did that with the side characters, and they just it was, and they did it with Indiana Jones too, just fucking cranked him. And it just made, but just I don't know, the sets were gorgeous. Just to sidebar myself, like those were incredible practical sets in the soundstage. Those were unreal. The sets and some of the scenes in that movie like just stayed with me. I'm trying not to be like child nostalgic because I was traumatized by that guy having heart ripped out, but yeah.
It does look great.
Yeah, the mine scene, like I was, even now, like I'm in
the
awe.
Mine
like
cart.
That's such a cool idea. Like, well, obviously, like, what if they're on a roller coaster? But all those battles and there's tons of action that just doesn't stop.
And it is like what happened there. They had to afterwards. They created PG-13 because of this movie. I mean that's common sort of lore attached to it. And it's fucking dark. Like when they're torturing those children, like just whipping fucking children in the mines.
Oh my god!
Screams coming up in your go on.
My favorite character is that kid in the jail where he's like, I prayed to Shiva to let me die, but I do not.
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
He's like, he just speaks fluid English, and he's just like, yeah, they make me drink the blood of Kali. Then I'll fall into the black sleep of the Kali Ma. And he's smiling the whole time for whatever reason.
Yeah. I love when they give Harrison the blood.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's upsetting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Getting back to your like Harrison Ford is exceptional. Like this is like as a and again I didn't really think about this lens until I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark as well, and I'll always remember everything about Last Crusade, and then also you even see it in the Crystal the Crystal Skull, Legend of the Crystal Skull, or whatever the fuck that show's called. It's just a comedy. Like this is a goofy, it's a screwball comedy that happens to also be a B movie starring like a pulp era action adventure, and which actually brings me back like something I thought about Willie, what's her name? Fucking Willie Scott. Yeah, I wonder actually if we went back to the comic books, because like in the same way that Star Wars is Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, like there's got to be. I'm thinking of like, I know Prince Valiant isn't a good example, but there's got to be like Steve Canyon and all those old comic strips of the 30s and 40s. Like there's got to like this has to be some equivalent to that, and there has to be, and I bet within those comics, which I don't know very well, there is the type that is Willie, that performs the same functions that Willie performs. And so, if we're charitable to these guys, like we might want to say that like she's a type within a particular type of like pulp story. And
that makes a lot of sense. I think too, like there's something about, I have your stories and I love them, like, but I think I almost feel like they're hard to write, that they're almost a product of this clash or skirmishes between different cultures, where the more you know about cultures, the more like the harder it is to jump, have people adventure and I don't know, encounter antagonists in India or wherever you happen to set it. And I think I just want to say that it kind of points to the brilliance of what Indiana Jones in general does with that formula, by making Nazis the bad guys and having these sort of globe-trotting adventures where it's a race against them in the other movies. That takes that problem from you. You know, okay, there's a secret order of like Turks. I think that the Turkish in the Last Crusade, but that's okay because it's like, you know, it's a small secret sect and like they just happen to be interacting with Indiana Jones then. But you're always focused on that antagonism. But I mean, like everyone hates Nazis. I mean, everyone should hate Nazis.
Except you're getting back to
yeah.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
I think, I hear you, and like that's fine. Like this show doesn't. I think it just goes to show that at the time, like Spielberg and Lucas, they didn't really care whether or not they were. No. They had a
they
likable.
Were taking something from their childhood and just being let's run with this. Let's make an adventure based on this.
Yeah. But the Nazis work, and then Russians will work for sort of the same purpose, although
Well, I always think of like the first, for me it was the first ever ultra-violent video game, Wolfenstein 3D.
Right.
Yes. You just, like you shot the Nazis and they just fucking howled in German and just died these grotesque fucking splattered deaths on this like mediocre, like it wasn't even 3D. It was like a 2D mapping trick that they used to make look 3D. It was like a little ahead of its time, but like basically like if you were gonna enact brutal violence, the cheapest go-to was the Nazi. It was just everybody was good with it.
Yeah, you just feel good about it.
Yeah. It's again, I think that's the Star Wars thing too. Like nobody minds if they gun down a bunch of the fucking stormtroopers, right? They even call them stormtroopers. It's a good move, it's classic, and I'm not like, this movie doesn't fail because it doesn't have that. I think that it. And I don't think it fails at all. It is exactly what's on the tin. Like and if you're not on board for what's on the tin, then you're gonna have some troubles. And the only thing that really truly takes me out of it is just the constant fucking screaming. But yeah, she could be. Whereas Marion Ravenwood, like Karen Allen, there's much more likable female characters in the other Indiana Jones movies as well.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do find that, like, this is like kind of a personal thing, but I enjoy Kate Capshaw.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Yeah. and maybe that's the missing link for everyone else that hates this movie.
Yeah, that would that would change my opinion.
I don't know. There's some kind of like angsty charm with this weird pushback. You guys found like grotesque and unappealing, and that I found oddly attractive.
Well, Spielberg liked it too, right? So
hey, that's a moment in time for him. That was the decision to pull the trigger on that. It's funny to think about the whole divorce mentality too, but the movie's also like it's like a pulp horror movie too. It's like there's like a lot of grotesquerie and a lot of like nightmarish like plays on over the top amount of common fears, claustrophobia, insects, snakes, fucking body horror, being possessed, burning alive, fucking name it, strangled, beaten, tortured, fucking
flayed,
eating monkey brains.
I mean, so you're on curtain hanging, in the windows of the temple, they have like flayed human skins just flapping there.
That's right. Yeah. That's what makes him kind of go in. He's like, oh man, are they flaying kids? Better go fucking help.
Yeah.
And yet for all that, the Mola, he's a really joyful guy. Like he's always laughing as he,
It's true.
He pulls up burning hearts. Like it's so over the top. I love when he's like climbing that, like at the end when they cut the rope bridge and he's like trying to scramble up. And he just like tosses one of his henchmen down and he's just laughing about that.
Oh yeah, Mola Ram is a boss villain. He's excellent. And he just was, I mean, like, I don't know, he was a pretty good, he was good to his, he was not good to his people.
No.
But like, I mean, like they were imbued with powers though. So I mean, like it's a sacrifice you have to make if you get kicked off a cliff.
Yeah, if you want to be,
if
you want that power.
You want to be
worshiping a god of, doomsday and ultimate death. So I guess it kind of comes with the territory a little bit.
And like realistically, I mean, like he's delivering.
What's the goal?
I mean, like I feel like it's like wealth and profitability, and I mean they seem to have they seem to be like sort of like profiteering off this guy almost.
No, he's like he says like they got a political goal, and it's really to I guess restore the glory of like to throw off colonialism, to push Britain out of there.
Yeah, and they're gonna do it with zombies, like because they've got that giant vat, right? And it's all
great.
Black water. It's the black shit that they feed Indy, and it's just like they're just brewing it. And then they're like, what are they gonna do? Like poison the wells and kick out the British? Like what's the plan?
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, it maybe that's the only place where possible. No, it's. It doesn't even complicate the Orientalism. It's just like it's just a fucking another layer on top of it. It's
I like
amazing.
I don't know. It just amused me at the end when like Indiana Jones is like, prepare to be Callie in hell. Like why would Callie be in hell?
I really enjoyed the use of the stock alligator footage ripping it.
Yes.
They were like ripping it
Right.
like a fucking maroon colored robe, like, and just rolling, and it was the same clip. Every time somebody fell down there, there was no blood, there was no meat being eaten, there was no effort to make special effects or use stunt people. They just used a clip of an alligator ripping at a carpet and rolling, and they just played the same one over and over again. And by the fourth or fifth guy that fell down there, it actually started to become like deliberate and comedic. But
I did a little background research into the Thugee movement, and that actually is one of the most accurate details, is that there were these legends or rumors that they in the waters would just like throw bodies to the gators to eat, so that there'd be no evidence of their crimes. So I think they might have actually been doing a little research there.
Nice touch, Spielberg.
Hi.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm watching the opening musical. We already talked about, like, we evoked the opening musical thing, but like this is so good. I really like this, and I didn't realize that Spielberg put like this. There's these animated sparkles over the entire thing that you feel are coming off of the sequence of the costumes, but aren't. He just makes the whole thing like really psychedelic, and it really is like an opening statement. Like it's literally an opening statement. Like she comes in and the last thing she says is like, anything goes. And it's like a mission. It's a mission statement for these fucking guys. They're like, anything goes. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Just like balls to the wall. And you're like,
they
okay,
wanted
guys.
to be a bit of a James Bond sort of thing too. That's why they had him in the tuxedo, and like sort of like usually those movies start with an action sequence. So like let's do that.
Yeah, well, Harrison Ford too's like, I mean, I don't know. I read a goofy article. It was sort of baseless. It was just people chatting and thinking out loud. But they were saying like the subject matter that's very popular for like movies right now, in terms of like major action movies, like Marvel content, DC content, like superhero stuff and Star Wars and so on and so forth. The faux characters are bigger than the actors, so the actor
Right.
never gets a chance to outshine the faux character.
Yeah.
So then it's just like people just theorizing and talking about like how stars are never breakout, but like this is from an era when like the leading man is like a major thing. I think of, I don't know, Sean Connery, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Harrison Ford. It's just like you needed that like mega leading man, and nobody gave a shit. Like, well, Indiana Jones is sort of an oddity that way, but like really Indiana Jones is just Harrison Ford in all his obnoxiousness.
Yes, that's true. But so well done.
He's also Han Solo though, and
yeah,
like,
who's the exact same
similar.
character.
So same character basically.
But I guess maybe the point that I am maybe making or trying to make in all of that is like he's only a big leading man because of those movies in which he's in a franchise. And then otherwise, like he's Harrison Ford and he can carry a movie still and put asses in the seats, but like his megastardom nowadays, it still seems to be tied to these fucking stupid franchises.
Yeah, I'd raise you Chris Hemsworth too, like for like you want to talk about like that's a breakout guy, like that, and purely because of his work with Thor.
Yeah, and even Chris Evans, I like, like outside of and you can't have another Captain America. And obviously, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. Was he ever big? Like he was never that big until like he was big as Tony Stark. So
he's well respected as an actor, but not like
I think his personal problems kind of took like 2 decades out of his career. So that's jail time and extracurriculars, but
yeah. I'm looking at it. Sorry, actually, I won't read that yet, but maybe I'll share it. I was looking at a review from 1984 in Cineast magazine of Temple of Doom, and it's surprising. Many of the things that we've said are here.
Okay, interesting. Okay. It's going back to that idea of like Harrison Ford being the same character. One thing I picked up on this watching, and I never really properly appreciated this as a prequel. That kind of gave some like character arc to Indy, but all these things about him being like, his rallying cry being fortune and glory, this sort of like mercenary attitude that he has in the beginning. Like this is kind of him coming into being more heroic. Even when he talks at the dinner, the guy is calling him out like, oh, didn't you run into some trouble in wherever? It's like, oh, like maybe you're more of a grave robber than an archaeologist, and he's kind of like defending himself against that. But it's really, when he first comes to that village, the guy's like, the sacred stones, and like Indy's thinking about stealing those stones, but at the very end he comes back and like, I understand what you're saying now. I saw it, and then he gives it back. Here's your protective stone.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your kids as well.
Yeah, that's fair. He didn't really need that. He didn't need that back. Okay, so there was actually a couple things, having watched Raiders of the Lost Ark before this one and in close succession. It felt very inconsistent. And I had some fanboy complaints in the sense that, like, so at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indy is like very secular. He's like, what are you guys worried about the Ark? Huh? There's no such thing as magic powers, blah, blah, blah. And he's got no sense of the magic of the archaeological digs. And like, and you're like, okay, well, Temple of Doom blows that out of the water. So
true.
And then he's much more a professor. We see him. And so he steals the things, right? And then he gives them on the sly to the museum, and the guy's like, I'm not going to ask any questions on how you got this. And Indy's like, okay, great. Like he's really like not a mercenary, but he's just like he's an illicit dealer in robbed artifacts. And his heroic qualities exist within that, but this movie just. So actually, maybe this is compatible with what you've just said, but okay. But he just seems a little more like business-like. But then again, it's in the future, and he's past all these adventures. So I mean, or there's no proper connection whatsoever because everybody was doing coke.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So,
Yeah.
like, when is it established that this is actually a prequel?
Well, right away
Because
because
it's
it's in 35.
1935.
Yeah.
You're just going off like pure like the year that it happened is
Chronology.
like sort of
Yeah.
displayed, and then they do that in Raiders then.
Yeah, and
Well,
Raiders, it's
because he's fighting
Nazis,
Nazis.
right? Yeah, so it's got to be in the 40s.
Shit.
Yeah, and there you go.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
never connected that before either. Like, this is the first time I was like, oh yeah, there's a progression in time here. You know what else is
Yeah.
really fucking dark? Is that Short Round is never seen again. Like, what the fuck's up with that?
Oh, he's fine. He's been living in the streets since he was a kid, so he's okay. He's just
parted
another
ways
Chinese
peacefully.
replacement for fucking another character named after a dog, which apparently
Yeah.
is where Willie Scott's name came from, and also Indiana Jones, and I didn't know that until I read the wiki, and I was like, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a much darker movie. It's much more gross, like in the way that you said, James. It's visceral, and it probably looked amazing in theater. Again, there's a
that'd be cool
lot
to
to
see.
like about this movie.
Oh, I mean, like in terms of actual visual effects, action, the stunts, the use of practical effects and stuff. This still looks great. I think that's maybe the most surprising thing is like a lot of times when I go back and watch a movie from this era, the special effects will take the piss out of it.
Yeah,
and it'll take you out of the experience again right away. But because this was such a smash and grab, and there were so many practical effects and just grimy fights, it actually ended up like really holding up visually. I didn't really think it would.
that's a good. It still does that thing where like very clearly there's a green screen or whatever. Like I don't know what the technology
Oh
was at the time.
yeah. Though that like when they're falling in the raft or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It does that a lot.
If you do that fast enough and it makes me kind of chuckle, I'll give it a pass. But that's,
it's fine. But that's why I say this movie feels like something like from the 50s and 60s. Is it feels like the techniques. This is a Hitchcock movie, and I like it. It causes. It's a very different sort of. I don't know how Spielberg usually films, but this movie feels like closed in. Like I don't always like it. Like I think it looks think it looks great, but it's just one damn thing after the other. Over, just
Yeah. I was reminded of I once read that writing like an action scene should be like a good news bad news scenario, and I was thinking about that very like it's good news you got away from the Chinese gangsters, but bad news is the plane is owned by the gangster. Well, good news or bad news the plane's crashing, but good news is wrath, et cetera, et cetera. Like you could do that like for every scene, and it would be that you get the movie.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. It's you get the diamond or you get the statue and you've been poisoned and it's just like here's a new and it constantly creates these new dilemmas, and that's not nothing. That's an excellent skill that makes a propulsive movie, because even though this is 2 hours long, it does not feel like 2 hours.
No,
it's
is always moving.
Yeah.
Nice try, Lau. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it's a fun stuff. He's always gonna thumb his nose at the villains, and it's you just love Indy.
You just love him. So here's the quote. While the technical qualities may be superior to the old serials, the content has remained pretty much the same. The film is a virtual catalog of ethnocentric, colonialist, racist, and sexist cliches. And this is all on the surface, easy pickings. The structuralist will be deconstructing this one at conferences for years to come. Only occasionally do the filmmakers seem even remotely conscious of the social and political implications of the genre or character conventions, and make any effort to give them a two-edged quality, using the conventions while comically sending them up, if not subverting them at the same time. Anyway, if you're schizo enough, you can probably enjoyably immerse yourself in this glorified comic book mentality without having to check your politics at the door. Just consider it a particularly revealing anthropological field trip. Thank you, Gary Crowdus. Yeah.
That's 84.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, there you go. Nailed right from the beginning. But
Yeah.
we are schizophrenic enough to be able to enjoy such a thing, I believe.
Oh yeah, you shut that off at the door.
We'll make
This is
that
an interesting
t-shirt.
point, though. Like 2 years from now, and I really wish we could have paired this this with Big Trouble in Little China. We just don't have time to do double features right now. But like, I honestly feel like that movie gets it. Like that movie does it without, it gives the story, like the Chinatown characters, and Kurt Russell is just sort of like this like dumb American kind of trying to keep his wits about him or figure things out as he goes. But it, it's really giving focus to instead of just engaging with, I don't know, like the pulp in a way that respects the cultural background. It's ridiculous, obviously it's over the top, but it's a tone for sure.
Big Trouble in Little China has like I actually just watched that for the first time the other day.
Fun. Okay.
It dials back. It dials back the main protagonist to be sort of a fucking big lumpy American, like you say, just like a donkey, and then it gives a little respect back to the Chinese culture, but then on the villain side also ramps up the fantasy to the point where it's just like magical absurdity. So you don't have to, like, these guys here actually, like, in
That's a good
Temple
point.
of Doom,
That's a good point.
In Temple of Doom, they're actually pretending that this is shit that could happen in India or that you'd find in India, and it's aggressive to the point where they're not
welcome.
Like, well, yeah.
That's exactly it.
For me, that's kind of arguable. Like, this is very much absurd enough to not be believable, and I feel sad for you if you did believe that this was true.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that time, given the fact that there was no internet, this was very aggressive.
I like the sorry, I'm looking at, they're on the airplane. Speaking of good news, bad news, they're just napping on the airplane, and for whatever reason, after hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of flying these people, they're just like, okay, time to tiptoe out and jump out, and leave them crashing. You're like, what a fucking ridiculous scenario.
Those guys were beauties, yeah.
I think but that goes to exactly what you're talking about, James. Like, this movie is obviously a joke, like it is, and again, getting back to slapstick comedy, like, this is a comedy that is also, like, is an adventure comedy, but it's a comedy first, and so you couldn't accept that this was real, and I don't think anybody was worried about that. I think it's just part of a larger cultural syndrome, is I think what everybody likes to say about it, like, and maybe at the peak of that issue, as we've already said.
Yeah, and I like, if I had a nickel for every time Kate looked up yesterday or was moseying around and was like, what the fuck is happening? like what is all that screaming? What madness is this? Like,
yeah,
and that should be the reaction to this.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do we got anything else? Do we want to bring it to want to say guilty or innocent on this one?
I don't know if I swayed.
I don't know if it's relevant.
Like,
yeah.
I don't think I swayed you guys at all. I think this is fantastic. It's a real proper shit show. Like, you can't find a shit show like this. It's hard. Like, unless you start going into the fringes and actually start watching, like, some terrible pulp B shit just to be a pervert weirdo, just be like, I'm watching a movie no one ever heard of, like some Rob Zombie, like, influence shit. Like, this is mainstream, and it is as fucked as you can get out of the mainstream, I think. And I don't know. So it's a special case.
Yeah.
In a way, it's almost like doing the Marvel thing, or the Marvel movies where you're mining, like, sometimes pure shit, like as we saw with the Scarlet Witch and Avengers, the whole what was that? WandaVision. When we
Yeah,
looked
yeah.
at the source material for that,
Mm.
you're kind of like, yeah, they're like the old OGs, like going back and kind of pulling from the things that they enjoyed from a childhood and making a comprehensive movie out of it.
Yeah, they were grasping at straws, and that turned into a pretty good little show.
Yeah.
And the comparison to the Marvel movies is super appropriate because although it's not as coordinated, like the thing with the Marvel movies is like once they had a foothold, they were like, okay, let's expand, and this is we're not at that phase yet, but it's still similar that they got the foothold and they were like, okay, we're doing sequels. We're gonna have a major character. We're gonna he's gonna be Indiana Jones, and his costume is gonna be his stupid hat and his fucking whip. Which incidentally, we didn't like his whip when he whips her at the end to shut her up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness! And then like all the Indian kids are like, yay! They're just like,
Oh
Go
yeah, and they come and
Indy.
touch him like he's an idol.
yeah. But they do that a
Yeah.
lot, no matter like anytime they're around. But like just in that
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
moment, it was just like, wow! Like, and she's like, yeah, she's totally into it too. And
But you know what? As a kid,
Yeah.
I would have been right there, man.
You're fucking right, man. Shut that chick up.
That was my idol too. No. Just like, yeah. It's like, Indiana Jones, you're the best.
Indiana Jones's overt sexuality is what dreams are made of.
Oh my goodness, yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry, I know I was.
Absolutely.
Like not that almost sex scene. Like again, good news, bad news. Actually, that thing turns on a fucking dime. Like those two people are crazy because like they're in the bedroom and they're flirting and he's like, I'm a doctor. I'm going to do all sorts of examinations on you. And she's like, oh, what sort of examinations? And he's like, nocturnal. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to be the best you ever had. And he's like, I'm not sure. I don't want to prejudice, and he's just continuing with the fantasy. And she fucking turns on him like a crazy person. Oh, you conceded, blah, blah, blah. But I was just struck by like how dirty their talk was. Like raw, primitive, sexual adventure. You're like, oh my God.
That was getting out of hand real fast.
Yeah, this is a children's show, but I mean, like, there's nothing about this that is actually like, it's meant to terrorize children. Like, it's a good movie for kids. Like, it sounds weird, but like, I putting aside the cultural, maybe this is my final decision on this one, is like putting aside the cultural issues. This tone of movie, this register of darkness and adventure is really appropriate for kids. I would like to see more of this. Like, if the Marvel movies had so much like gross out shit and like there was something visceral and kinetic about them, that would be great. And like, unfortunately, like fucking Kali Ma is associated with this shit. But yeah, there's something to be mined from, who'd have thought, right? Oh, Spielbergo has some fucking something to teach us. But I think, yeah, there's something like, if this is a snapshot of like what popular entertainment could accomplish or be like in a moment and like within the mainstream, I would like to rescue the part where everything's kinetic and dark and gross and weird, in the same way that I think, James, you want to, although you're you do enjoy the shit show, where everybody's offended, and that's
it's special. It's
it's definitely special. Yeah. So I think that's the nicest thing that I can say about this.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.